What are you guys drinking, by the way?
LaCroix. Nice.
Just pure?
Yep.
Just pure? Nice.
Coffee Imperial Stout.
Ooh, I thought you were going to be pulling to me here with a little coffee and gin, which is what I got going.
Nice.
But I was feeling like super tired before we hopped on. And Mikey texted me back. No issues with the receiver. Yeah. I was telling John last time that we recorded, and then we'll roll into this. Sorry. I lent Mikey, our buddy, our drummer, the drummer of our band, my receiver, like stereo receiver that I had a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like probably like, I don't know, like almost 10 years ago at this point, because I lent it to him when I was either living with Katie or when I was living with Steve and DJ. And I had like that extra receiver. It was in like a closet. Mikey got a new record player.
Nice.
And he didn't have like a phono preamp on his receiver.
Right.
So I was like, oh, if you want to use this for the time being. I don't know how the conversation exactly went, but I was under the impression like, hey, you can use this until you pick out what you want to get, and then I'll get it back. And then like it's been this long and I've had a setup, so it's been like, okay, I haven't really needed it. But I told him, I was like, hey, now that I'm like getting ready to move back home, I was like, I really would like to get that back. I was like, it's no big deal, but I was like, I've been dreading this moment, asking for this back for literally for years and putting it off. And he was like, oh, no sweat. He's like, I got a backup one, because I was like, I'm probably going to get rid of the one that I have currently because it's like a cheapo, not the best. It was like the one that Steve and I bought as like a surround sound thing when we were living at that apartment. And it was just what I had hooked up at the time. But I was like, yeah, I'd like to. That thing was kind of expensive.
Yeah, audio equipment.
I would like to get that back.
That don't come cheap.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back together with the full crew for the first time in a while, I feel. But yeah, it feels good to be back. Yeah, we did a duo episode with Randall and I, and then a duo episode with John and I. And now we got the trio back together, and we're back to talk some games as always. And I guess I'll kick things off with the newest thing that I've been playing. It's the newest game at the time of recording this. By the time this episode comes out, it might be a month or so old or whatever. But I've been playing a bunch of Frogun, which is all one word with one G. But this is kind of like a 3D platformer. Very much, to me, it feels very much like a PS1 game for whatever reason. Like everybody else that I've talked to up until right now, Randall, like everyone that I've talked to like online, or like our buddy Paradigm that I've mentioned before, like from the Indie Game Collective. Like he's always like, oh, it looks like more like a Nintendo 64 game to me. I was like, you're crazy. I was like, this is so... Yeah, I'm like the textures, just everything about it. I mean, it's way sharper than a PS1 game, but it basically looks like you're playing like a PS1 game in HD, essentially.
Yeah, or through a better like video format. It looks like a PS1 game, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Glad you agree. Because I'm like, am I going crazy here?
All them sharp edges.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like something about the polygons.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been really, really sucked into this game. Like it's been a while since I played a 3D platformer, like other than the main, like I guess like Kirby stuff. Like the mainline Nintendo stuff that I've been playing recently, but I feel like it's been a while, like probably since New Super Lucky's Tale, since I like dove into a 3D kind of more collect-a-thon platformer. And I don't want to say this game rises to those heights, because New Super Lucky's Tale is like, I think I said on the podcast, like this is one of my favorite 3D platformers ever. Like it comes pretty dang close to like Mario Galaxy and stuff for me. But yeah, I've been really enjoying my time with this game, and it's quite a bit tougher, and the stages are quite a bit larger than I expected. And I did talk about this game briefly on one of the Save It for the Cast episodes when I checked out the demo, I think during like a Steam Next Fest, and I just kind of did like a rapid fire of a bunch of the demos that I checked out, and I just kind of briefly talked about it and kind of touched on the fact that like the levels, like they kind of look like they're going to be like, especially when you just see like brief little snippets or whatever on Twitter, like it kind of looks like it's going to be more like diorama, small little bite-sized levels. But once you like get into the game, the levels, you're really like exploring in a bunch of different directions that wrap around. There's multiple checkpoints on each level. Like it kind of feels like, again, like I think I may have mentioned this, I don't know if I did or not, but I know we've talked about like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on the podcast, and we might even get into a little bit of that later on to hear a little bit more of Randall's thoughts about 3D World that he's been Mario 3D World that he's been digging into lately, and we'll just talk some 3D platformers in general, I guess. But yeah, it feels like different in a way. Like it feels more like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, where like it does feel like the game's more on like a grid kind of, but it's way more actiony. Like you're jumping around, and the main mechanic is you have this like frog gun hand that you can like shoot and like grab enemies, and you basically can just shoot it like straight forward, and it can either again grab enemies, and then most enemies you can grab and kind of hold them on the edge of your gun and then fling them back at other enemies or break like pots or whatever on the levels. The thing that's kind of annoying with the collectathon aspect is like every pot has coins in it, and like if you're trying to collect every coin on every stage, it's like, okay, it can be a little bit tedious.
Oh no, do they actually track that? Like you would have to, you have an incentive to actually break every pot to get every coin, as far as like a collecting counter type of thing?
Yeah, there's like medals for like that kind of stuff, and medals for like beating the stage in a certain amount of time, which is cool in the sense that like because I did try to play just one of the stages more as like a time rush. Like I was like, I wonder how, because it took me maybe like 7.5 minutes to beat. This is one of the later stages that I played. I've probably played like 10 or a dozen stages so far, and it took me like 7.5, 8 minutes or so to clear the stage, but then like the target time was like 1:40 for like the speed run.
Oh my gosh.
So like you can really cut through like a ton of the level, like if you're not exploring and if it's not your first time around. But yeah, it really does. Like I was thinking about it because the game's only $15 and I've played like through 10 or 12, and we did get this game sent to us through Indie Game Collective. Like they were just like, hey, do you want to check this out? And I was like, heck yeah.
Nice.
But for $15, and I think at launch it even had a 20% discount, so it was only $20 bucks. It was only $12. And this game is like jam packed, kind of like I mentioned with Grapple Dog. Like, and again, another game that kind of has a grappling mechanic, but like there's just like a ton of levels. Like I think I'm only at like 12 or 14% or something I cleared the stage that I was on, and I've not collected like every medal or anything like that. I'm assuming it's like that percentage would go up if I did do like the time attack on each stage and whatever. But it's like, man, this game is jam packed, and it's like maybe it's just somebody like me that just tends to bounce around and just likes to get a little taste of each game. Like even if I wasn't making videos, that's just like kind of the way that I play games. Like I just like get a little taste. Okay, I like the mechanics. That's why I lean towards like the roguelike or the arcadey stuff that I can just, play when I'm in the mood to play it, I guess.
Jump in.
But yes, and this game kind of works perfectly for that, where I've been like playing it for 2 or 3 sittings now, where I'll chip away at, 3, 4, 5 levels at a time. But it's been keeping my interest enough to where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going back again and again. But it is pretty challenging. Like it's kind of more, like I was saying, Captain Toad wise, it's kind of more grid based, where you really got to like line up your jumps and land like right on top of things, or like really like bounce off of like a mushroom bouncy thing, and like then use your tongue to grab another one that's like suspended in midair. And like you really have to like navigate really quickly. Like you'll be on like a crumbly platform, and that's the only thing where it gets kind of tough. You have to really rotate the camera around, and it almost feels like you're playing like an isometric platformer, but like with full control of the camera, which feels awesome for the most part. But like when you get into like an actiony segment, and like it's pretty much you're in that diorama way, like everywhere on the stage is like a bottomless pit essentially if you fall down. So like you really like can be like, oh, I didn't realize like I had to do like 3 like moves in quick succession, like because there's a crumbly platform, and then I had to do a grapple. So like you can be like, oh shit, I gotta go way back to that last checkpoint, and it didn't save any of the coins I collected and whatever. So it can be like a little tedious and retro in those regards, but I'm kind of being nitpicky because I think if I was just playing like a little bit more leisurely and like, I don't know, like not, I'm just like so used to playing platformers and like not dying that much, I guess. And like just kind of like ripping through them, especially after playing Super Mario World. Not that I ripped through that necessarily either, but I can kind of coast through those games. And like this one is giving me a little bit more of a challenge, although there are different difficulty settings right off the bat. If I recall correctly, at least. But yeah, there's just like tons of cool unlockables, like a bunch of different hats for the main character to wear, and you're just trying to like rescue your parents that like get lost. I can't remember exactly what happens. It's like a real quick cutscene in the beginning, but they get lost like exploring these ancient ruins. So it's like right up my alley in that regard too, with all the ancient civilization stuff I've been watching and whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I've been really enjoying the game despite the nitpicks, and it's been really nice to play something that, kind of leans more into that like PS1 era platformer, because I feel like, I don't know, number one, I didn't really grow up playing a ton of those, like
Same.
Spyro or Crash. Like my cousins had them, and I played them a little bit at their house, but like don't have like the fond memories. So it almost feels like I'm playing one of those. It's got a great overworld map. There's like a character you come across every once in a while that you have to like race through the stages, and then there'll be like a path that you can go back through to collect everything if you're able to beat them in the race. So like, I don't know, it's a really cool, really charming game. It's a little bit almost overstuffed, I guess. I don't know exactly how to say it, but yeah, it's a really cool game. I'm really, really enjoying my time with it so far. And I was a little bit, I remember saying in the Save It for the Cast episode, I went into playing the demo kind of reluctant, like, oh, maybe it's going to be a little bit like it more style than substance, but that is definitely not the case. It's like really well crafted levels. All the moving platforms like have like a glittery flash to them. So like, you know that, okay, this thing is going to move in some way. Like I know it's I know it's going to either move up or down or side to side. It's not like, particular, but yeah, there's all sorts of like levers you can pull, like just like panels you can pull out of the wall that you can then jump on and like create a staircase. Like it's really, really cool and way more actiony than I anticipated. I almost wish there was a run button, but because you do run kind of slowly, but I feel like the way it works kind of on that, again, you're not locked to a grid or anything, but they do a great job with like the shadow or like the indicator also like of your character when you're jumping in the air. There's like a nice yellow circle. Like it's
crucial.
When you miss a platform, it feels like it's your fault for the most part.
Nice.
Every now and then you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my time with the game so far, and I'm looking forward to digging in some more.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear you say that, because like this game has been on my radar, and actually like, as of the time of this recording, Limited Run has a physical version for sale, and I've eyeballed it, but I'm like, the reviews have been like good, but not necessarily like mind blowing. So I'm like, I know Kevin's playing this, like, let me hear what he's got to say, because I know we're on similar wavelengths with platformers. So yeah, okay, this sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, I'm definitely into it. I will say, yeah, go in with caution on the difficulty side of things. Like it's definitely, but again, you can kind of and you can definitely kind of pace that difficulty in your own way of saying, okay, I don't really care about the time trials, or I don't care about the collectibles, or I don't care, I don't care about finding the secret crystal skull in every level or whatever. So. But yeah, I know I mentioned, Randall, that you've still been chipping away at Bowser's Fury in particular on Super Mario 3D World. Yeah. But I guess we can, talk a little bit about that, and if anybody has any thoughts in general on just like 3D platformers and whatnot. And
I done chipped
general,
it.
Yeah.
It's over. I've beaten Bowser's Fury.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Not only did I beat it, but I 100%ed that son of a gun.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 100 cat shines out of 100.
Heck yeah.
Have been achieved. So that took me, Fiona watched me most of the time, because she'd come home from daycare and say, can we watch Bowser? Say, yeah, we can watch Bowser. Of course we can. So so that's been the impetus to play it most days. And then she started caring less about Bowser in the last couple of days, when it seemed kind of samey, and the challenges for those last handful of cat shines got too difficult, and Daddy was having to try over and over and over again. So that's obviously less interesting. But I finished it out in my own time. And
nice.
It's good. Yeah, I gave some initial impressions last episode, but that's a good little package that they added to Super Mario 3D World on Switch. That Bowser's Fury is well worth playing, and you can do it if you're not a completionist. I think you could clear it in like probably like 4 hours. I was slower about it purposely, both because that's how I play games, and my 3-year-old was watching me play it. So, I'm trying to be like, oh, do you see cat shine over there someplace over there in the distance? Cat shine!
Right.
And, I was like,
teaching her the ropes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, there's a lot of that. But even then, I think got to 100%. The Switch set I played for like 10 hours or more, but I had also dabbled in the 3D World side for a while. I was on like the second world there. So say about like 8 hours or so that to 100% it in my slow pace. So yeah, it's good. It's fun, and it feels like a mini new 3D Mario. And the only gripes I'd have is like once in a while I'd have to kind of fight the camera just a little bit, but again, we're talking about 3D platformers, so that's kind of just comes with the territory. And if you've played 3D platformers, that is not too unfamiliar to you, I would say.
Yep, it's definitely not unfamiliar in Frogun either.
Right.
It's definitely one of the issues in just about any game. I mean, I feel like any game that has a camera that moves, there's always going to be like something to nitpick about it,
Yep.
So had you bought and beaten 3D World for the Wii U?
I had, yes. Okay. So, but I was just like, and I'd been in the habit of like, let's get the Switch
version of the Wii U game.
That's one I do want to get it after what you're saying, for sure.
In this specific instance, I think this is one of the best like reissue packages that Nintendo's put out around a Wii U title. I mean, like Wind Waker was amazing too with what they did, but that was on Wii U.
Right.
The Switch, what they've done here with 3D World and adding Bowser's Fury, which they could have easily released as a $15-$20 standalone thing, I think.
I kind of wish that they had.
I know.
I really just want that. I don't necessarily want to buy 3D World again, even though I really liked it. But I own it.
The one thing I'll say is like, because I held off on getting it as well, and like the one thing I do have 4 Switch controllers easily, where I do not have 4 Wii U controllers. Not that I plan on playing multiplayer all that often, but like with the new Super Mario Brothers games, I remember being really excited, like, oh yeah, 4 players, but it was kind of annoying. Like you just keep bumping into each other, and like it's more chaos than fun.
That was great.
Oh man, when you're just trying to rip through the levels, you're just like, what are you doing?
You're not trying to rip through the levels. You're trying to go and throw your friend off into a pit.
Yes, they go in the pit.
That's what the game is.
Exactly.
Or you're trying to put everybody into bubbles, and then you accidentally all bubble at the same time, and you lose.
Didn't you have to shake around your Wiimote too? I feel like that was a factor.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, but I always felt like it would work. I think I maybe played like very, very briefly with 3D World multiplayer at some point, but I just feel like with it being a 3D game and more of that kind of corridor level design that we've been talking about, like it's just like, that seems like it would be more fun to just like truly cooperatively romp through the levels and just try to get through from point A to point B.
It is, and everything's cat themed, and Bowser's Fury too, which is a lot of fun. So
nice.
Yeah. It's good.
I love that Fiona's main interest is Bowser, and my immediate instinct is like, oh, she must be into the cats, but nope, it's Bowser.
I mean, she thinks those are cute, but she likes Bowser and she likes Bowser Jr. She's like, oh, it's Junior. Yes. Junior's so funny. Like, so she likes Junior a lot too.
Yeah, Bowser Jr. is great.
Yeah, and Bowser Jr. helps Mario in this, so it's
a
little twist on the formula there.
Yeah,
but that's because Papa has gone off the deep end, so that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. I guess while we're talking platformers real quick as well, we recently did a poll in the Discord with our monthly supporters, and the game that won the poll was Shovel Knight Plague of Shadows for me to do a live stream of. And that's the one Shovel Knight game that I actually have not played really at all. I think I booted it up initially and like saw like, okay, these levels are kind of the same as the Shovel Knight levels. They're just going to like, especially the very first stage in the game, I believe it is the same first stage as the Shovel Knight, the original Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I believe it's like pretty much the same stage. So I was like, okay, it's just going to give you these new movement mechanics with Plague Knight. And the reason I wanted to kind of bring this up in particular is because like I find it very interesting because we were talking about it in the Discord and John was like, oh, that's like the best Shovel Knight game, Plague Knight, and that's the one that I played all the way through. And I'm like, once again, John and I disagreeing on 2D platformers, because I'm really enjoying my time with the game so far, but man, is it hard. And all of the Shovel Knight games are really hard, but the way the movement works, and I'm assuming most people are probably familiar with the series and probably the game, but like, you're way more about like momentum with Plague Knight. You're like charging up your bombs and then essentially you can release that to do like a explosion, like almost like Splosion Man or Missplosion Man.
Oh geez.
Where you like kind of like explode and launch yourself, or you can like throw bombs that kind of like propel you upwards a little bit, like so you can kind of like finesse. It's a really awesome feeling.
Lots of diagonal jumps.
Yes. But man, even on the very first stage, like you get to like this platform where there's like a ladder all the way off to the right, and then like one little platform that you have to land on, and like a beetle that's like just going back and forth, like really nowhere for you to land unless you kill that beetle. And like you really have to like be lined up perfectly. And like it took me like 4 or 5 tries. I'm like, this is like the 6th screen in the game. Like, what the heck? This is brutal. And I was just getting my ass kicked. And I played for probably like 2.5 hours or so. I probably got about halfway through the game or so. But I still have a long way to go, I feel, and I am getting my ass kicked. And I am enjoying it, but and I know we talked about the King Knight campaign around the time that was released. We kind of all synced up on that game. God, I got to stop doing sunk now that I mentioned it, but whatever. But yeah, I still think I stand on King Knight being my favorite, and then kind of a coin toss between Shovel Knight and Spectre Knight. And then I do plan on hopefully finishing Plague Knight, but again, it's going to be a tough road to the end. Thankfully, there's like all the different like potions and whatever that you can have. So you can have like the kind of like Cape Mario style, like float down slowly. That's what I did with Spectre Knight too. I got like the mechanic where like it saves you from one fall down a pit. It's just like, okay, let me just get through this game. And one thing I did want to mention too is like, I forgot how much the Shovel Knight series is like heavily inspired by Mega Man, like specifically. Like it just feels like the way the levels are laid out and everything. I'm just like, man, this feels so Mega Man-y, and the music and like just the NES encounters. Presentation. Yeah, it's very, very Mega Man, more than I remembered. You know, I just kind of thought like, oh, it's kind of like an NES style game, but it's like, oh, this is very, I mean, it's very much its own thing too, and very much, you know, bringing in elements of a bunch of other games. But yeah, it's very Mega Man and like Castlevania, but I don't know. I'm really enjoying and forgot how, like, it's almost like it's easy to take the Shovel Knight series for granted, especially that they, you know, went and released 3 full-blown DLCs after, and they're all fantastic games. But yeah, what about, is it just like the feel of the control and whatnot, John, that appeals to you? And then yeah, Randall too, if either of you have any thoughts on the Shovel Knight series in general.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, once again, you're 100% wrong on what's a good platformer, and that's fine. But yeah, it was
totally fair.
It felt so natural to me. Like, I think that was the thing where, like, everything felt so satisfying, whereas, like, I feel my order of the Shovel Knight games are also in the order of, like, completion. I think I 100%ed Plague Knight, and then like got pretty close on Shovel Knight, and then never beat either Plague or King Knight, just because like I could not get that's I think also a strength of the series is that they do kind of all control very differently.
Yeah.
So like the Plague Knight one clicked with me. Like, it just was everything I wanted from a platformer. Shovel Knight like was a little bit of a struggle, but I was still able to beat it. And then Spectre Knight, I just like couldn't really wrap my head around. And then King Knight, I almost like just completely bounced off. Like,
that's surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean,
King Knight, especially because it has that like card game
for
layer.
Different people.
Yeah, well, I was thinking with King Knight, there's like that card game layer too. Like I was thinking, there might be some extra elements that might pull John in.
I was garbage at that card game.
Yeah, I didn't play much of it either.
I was so bad at it.
Yeah, and I did want to mention too briefly, because I did, like, other than the very first level of Plague Knight, and I feel like all the games kind of played out where like the very first level was almost the same as the first stage in the original Shovel Knight, but then every subsequent stage, like, it was the same kind of zones for the most part, but they were very specifically designed around each character's mechanics, and you know, it wasn't like the impression that I got when I first played Plague Knight, because I think the only other time I played it before was when it first released, and I was like, okay, they're just like giving you a new character to play as in the same exact game as what the impression that I got. But that's definitely not the case. Like, the story, it's very cool how it plays out at the same time as the Shovel Knight campaign, where all the other ones are kind of like prequels. This is kind of like alongside concurrent storyline, if that makes sense, which is pretty cool as well. But yeah, what about you, Randall, on the Shovel Knights?
You know, it's Shovel Knight is one of my gaming shames, I suppose, because I spent a lot of time with the original Shovel Knight. It's actually a game that I kickstarted back in the day.
Nice.
And I've even got like the NES styled box and everything. I actually just recently refound that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's
nice.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
And a manual, I think. But I don't think I beat any of them. I spent time with all of them.
They're hard.
Yeah.
They're hard.
They're so hard.
They're very hard.
Yeah, and it didn't help that a lot of like the other games besides the core Shovel Knight, I think started arriving after I was already trying to do college and work at the same time, and then and then just things happen, and then. No, I need to go back around to them because I really like those games a lot. Like you guys talking about, I'm like, oh yeah, Shovel Knight rules. I want to play all those games. We'll play through the treasure trove. I'm pretty sure I picked it up on Switch too for some reason. So,
I did the same thing. Yeah. So, although I should have got it physically. I picked it up digitally on Switch, and I'm just like, why did I don't think I knew that there was going to be or that there was a physical version at the time.
Sure.
And I just scooped it up. I think it was like on sale or something. I was like, yeah, I can get these on the Switch. It'll be nice and handy to have them there. And I will say, I still haven't picked up Pocket Dungeon or whatever it's called. That's already out. And there's still Shovel Knight Dig coming out, which is kind of the more like Downwell inspired Shovel Knight arcade game that they've been working on for quite a while. So I feel like they have just like milked that game for everything it's worth, but at the same time, like it doesn't feel milked at all or phoned in any capacity.
Oh no, they put so much love into their games for sure.
Yeah,
Yacht Club's really good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. But why don't we toss the ball over to John here? I know you've been playing some Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to get ready for the, I guess, sequel to that's coming out soon or came out already, I guess. But I
did the exact same thing that I did when Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, which was think, hey, I was pretty close to beating the previous game. Maybe I should finish that game off before I start this next one.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like me with Zelda.
I marathoned the ending of the original Xenoblade Chronicles before I started Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And then
so you picked up your old save file and like finished it off that way?
I finished off I did the same thing where I finished off my Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I had not picked up in 2 years.
Woo.
Jeez.
I had put 128 hours in, and I was so close. Just do it. You got like 10 hours. Like if you take it chill, like you can do this. Because I was saying, I was like, oh, maybe I should just start Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I'm very glad I did, because it is there. We'll get into that in a broader sense in a bit, but I do love how it was on the money. It was exactly 10 hours to beat that game.
Oh, hey,
from
there you
the
go.
point where it was. Like I think I clocked in at like 138 hours.
Jeez.
Like on the dot. And then I started a new game plus because I really enjoy that game.
Wow.
Oh my God. Is that just starting fresh, like with all your gear that you've acquired? Or?
All your gear, all your blades, all of your relationship levels. So like a lot of the stuff that just takes a ton of time.
Yeah.
And like
okay.
all your like skill progressions are already unlocked. So it's like, and then it has additional stuff, blah, 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 blah. It was a good way to be like, okay, well, I want to keep playing this game, but also I want to have like extra stuff to do. So I probably will pick it up again at one point. Like I think I also started a new game plus on the original Xenoblade Chronicles as soon as I beat it, because that also kind of put me in a mood to like keep playing that game. But
Flashpoint, would you say at this point you've beaten both of those games? Which one it feels better to you? Which one sits in higher regard to you of those first two Xenoblade Chronicles games?
It is incomparable. Like we discussed it a little bit. I was listening back to the episodes, which were, I think, I just had it up on my phone.
Way back when? Well, like 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah, it was in the 40s.
Oh,
it was
Jeez.
43 and 46 and 49.
Oh my gosh!
Listen to those at your own risk.
Yeah, but those were. I'm actually very interested, like, because even my recollection of them, like I didn't remember even the conversations we had about them.
Yeah,
but we were mostly talking about Randall, because like you had just started playing it. You had gotten the Torna like pack version of it.
Yep.
And
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You'd put in a decent chunk of time, like I
did.
think 35 hours or so, before you were like, all right, this is kind of wearing me down. And I definitely do think that like listening back, that's exactly what I felt at the time. I was talking about skipping cutscenes and like just playing the game for the mechanics of it. but I have a bold claim to make about the JRPGs as a genre, but also it's a much larger topic of discussion, I think. But I truly think that JRPGs in general have a type of storytelling that is unable to be found anywhere else, in a very specific way of like, they usually have like a huge in-depth mechanics that you spend hours upon hours in. So you have a unique, like, I'm sure that there are stories that are similar to JRPGs, but these are not accessible genres. These are not like, you won't come across like this story in this delivery or like these mechanics baked in and like without wanting to seek it out. Like this is not something that people will like has broad appeal and people will see to its completion. Like, I liked this game. I liked this series. I almost didn't see it to completion. And it was just on a whim that I ended up like seeing what was a truly unique and mind-boggling ending to this story in a way that really did make me like very excited for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a game I did not follow at all in its development and did not care for about its release, and just kind of picked it up out of obligation, kind of.
Yeah.
And then when I went back and beat this game, I'm like, fuck, I'm really excited to play this game now. Like,
okay.
I really,
Nice.
All right.
But it's such a weird thing to like, because I've been thinking a lot about, you know, TV shows or movies.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like maybe like a long running anime, kind of, at least in terms of like the pacing and the character development. But I know what you mean about like when you're, yeah, exactly, yeah. But when you're like diving into those menus and like really kind of like there's like that layer of the game that like, I don't know, especially if you're playing like Dark Souls too, where like that's part of the story in and of itself, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of games have like not necessarily in that same way, but you know, they're presenting things, or you're like, you know, one of our buddies in the Discord has been playing Final Fantasy VIII recently, I think, and like even just playing through all like the card games and like the little like school mini games and stuff in that game. From the little bit that I remember of playing that, it's just like, oh man, there's like so much.
Yeah.
Like you experience in the game like that you could easily just not experience, I guess. Right. Or like, I guess, yeah, if you're watching an anime series, you're going to, if you watch it all, you're going to see it all. Maybe you're not going to get every bit of subtext or whatever, but you're going to experience the whole show. And
that's something that I think is kind of explicitly unique about these games, is that like I spent 138 hours playing this game. I beat it. I completed the game. I did a ton of side quests. There is so much of this game that I just don't know about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like I haven't touched on.
Yep.
Like
that's like not to mention the stuff that's in New Game Plus.
Right. Like there's so many side stuff, or like the stuff like, and I think that's very hard to come by, I think now. Like I don't think that I think we're getting less and less of these like AAA games that like are either like, if a game wants you to be playing it for 100+ hours, it wants you to be in a mode where you're spending money on that. Like,
right.
So like you get these seasonal passes games where it's like, oh, well, the gameplay is addictive or the rewards are addictive. And like, that's what keeps you coming back to them. But like, it is so expensive now to make games, especially in a AAA or like a big studio.
No doubt.
Sense. Like the costs have just gotten astronomically higher year over year.
Yep.
And like, for a series or a genre that has just gotten at times bloated with like, you know, mechanics or menus or skill trees and stuff, like it is truly something unique that like I cannot experience in any other way, like with that. And then on top of that, there is the extremely unique stories that kind of prop up out of these games, with like the Xenoblade series in particular. Like there is the trope in most JRPGs are like, oh, you're a small town character who eventually grows up and kills God.
Amnesia, power of friendship, yada yada. Yep.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true for this. But like this game in particular had me like thinking so deeply about like existence and like what like just like being alive is.
Damn.
And like it was a really good and unique way of approaching it, and like I don't want to get too deep into it and like spoil everything in the game, but like I really did make me care way more about Xenoblade as a series as opposed to what I was kind of feeling of it as like standalone games that I didn't really see any connection between.
Right. And I'd caught wind in recently, especially I've caught wind that, you know, things are intertwined more than you might expect with Xenoblade in general, right?
I still could not predict. Like that is the other thing about these stories in Xenoblade in particular and JRPGs in general is that like there are often just like turns that like I can't even like in my wildest dreams imagine. I was like, that's where the story went. That's what like is true in this reality. Sure, let's go with it. Like give me something I've never seen before. Let's go. So
now I want to ask, like you talked before about like having a similar irritation like I did with Xenoblade 2 in particular with like the cutscenes are just going on forever. And it's just like, does everybody need to have this much dialogue to say their catchphrase and whatever else? Like, and some of those catchphrases are hilarious, especially in like battle sequences. But the cutscene, I'm no longer battling. I'm just watching you. So like, how did you go from those feelings to being compelled to see it through and to be at a point where you were only 10 hours away from finishing it? Like what changed or what clicked, or was it just sheer determination on your part to push through and find what you liked?
Part of it was sheer determination, and the other part of it was like literally I think it was the first cutscene that I encountered in like picking the game back up.
Yeah.
Like things got so wild so fast that I was like, okay, what the I really need to see what happens next, because like that was not something that I had ever expected or
okay.
Like, so it was partly like, yeah, that story just got good 120 hours in.
Oh,
which is
God.
an unbelievable.
You just got to play the first 120 hours.
Yeah.
That's like,
yeah.
That's
oh my
just the
God.
opening segment. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like it, I don't know. I think it was because like it became so unpredictable as a story that I was happy to sit down and watch an hour-long cutscene and then fight one boss and then see another hour-long cutscene.
Sure.
It almost feels like it's like Kingdom Hearts meets Metal Gear Solid levels of bonkers at times. Like it's like Nintendo's version of those two series combined without all the like crossovers and stuff. But
that's funny.
So I'm gonna be very excited to, now that I've successfully completed the game, I can move on to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and tell you how I'm disappointed with the first 10 hours, and then 30 hours in I was like, no, I'm wrong, this game rules, and then 60 hours in say I'm bored of this game, and then 120 hours in I'll say this is the best game ever made.
I'm just worried how you're going to juggle that and Elden Ring at the same time.
Oh my God.
Elden Ring has been on hiatus for a while, which is not any knock on it. It is just I've got so many other good games, and I'm letting those muscles rest. So I will come back to that.
Yeah.
In a similar boat.
Heck yeah. But I don't know, any more thoughts on JRPGs or any other gaming talk for this week, fellas?
No, I'm just like very tantalized about that myself, because like in a very non-spoiler way, I've heard other podcasts talk about Xenoblade 3, and I've seen just review scores and things like that. I'm like, oh no, they really seem to like this one a lot. And like,
I've been hearing good things as well. I know
you gotta be a glutton for punishment. You gotta be able to take those games.
in the Discord, I think it was like, oh, Xenoblade 3 starts fast, and I was like, oh, nice. I think I even just put like eyeballs. John was like, don't you dare, Kevin.
I know you will not.
Yeah, I was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna get it. I was like, I'm already sitting here actually thinking about selling my collector's edition of 2 because I don't know why. I was just at Target one day and they had it, and I was like, hey, this steelbook and this art book looks pretty dang cool, and it's gonna be out of print at some point. So I might as well grab it now. But yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I need to whittle down my collection and like I want to have like just the games I'm truly gonna play.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, I think we can wrap things up there for this week with the video games chat. And yeah, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com and pretty much everywhere else that you can imagine. And yeah, otherwise we will catch you next. Otherwise we'll catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That works for me. A little bit of a flub, but
anywhere your imagination
can
take you, you can find Pursuing Pixels.
Yeah. It's funny when you guys were talking about the cutscenes. It's interesting, like because yeah, back in like the PS1 days, you could just like breeze through. Like if you can read fast, you didn't have to like listen to them play out. Now you kind of have to like watch it play out at the pace that it's like directed at, and you can't really.
I want to hear the voice acting.
Oh my god! So, Randall, do you care if I spoil anything?
No.
Okay, I mean this is
like I might even still play this, but I kind of would. I feel like I need just a little bit more push. You know, so the spoiler would help my push.
Know, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is just going to be out of context. It will mean nothing. But there is a character you meet, and I'm at 128 hours in, that has never been brought up before, never like anything. But like the way that every time that he speaks, the camera is always showing him like just half of his face.
Okay.
And like for like scene after scene after scene where you're seeing him, I'm like, it's like just really creepily shot and like really like interesting. And then like the first time that like it pans out and you see him and his whole like half of his body is just like gone.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that wasn't just a camera angle. Like I thought you were just like making a really cool like a
Wes
director
Anderson.
shot.
Yeah,
but it was also like
choice.
A good reveal. I was like, all right.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice.
So
interesting. How do they walk? How does that character walk?
He doesn't need to because he's God.
Fair enough.